What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today it is day 2 of my mock draft 19.0 with trades. This is going to be rounds 2 and 3, just like the normal NFL draft. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. You guys know how to use YouTube at this point. Below my face is my board. Below that are all the great ways to get involved in the community, as well as take advantage of our two sponsors of the show, Olipop and UnderDog Fantasy. So feel free to take advantage of those codes, make yourself some money, get yourself a gambling addiction, because you might as well start early. It's going to happen eventually. So at least I can match up to $100 for y'all using the code HAILMARY. Let's get right into this. We also will be having a new sponsor of the show that will most likely be coming in mid-February. So excited for that. Starting out, we're going to do a quick little recap. Those of y'all who are listening to this as an audio version, I highly suggest going back to the first round, which makes a lot more sense anyways. So a lot of big trades happened. We're primarily going to focus on those. Arizona, I've been getting absolutely reamed for this one. I knew it was coming. It was only a second round pick to move back one spot. That is approximately the trade value, but to be fair, probably should have spent a little bit more than that. So apologies about that. You know, the whole entire fun part of this is that we get to make a mistake once a week and then fix it the next. So love you guys for holding me accountable, because honestly, it makes better content for you and for me if I don't do stupid shit like sending only a second round pick to have Marvin Harrison go to one team over the other. Then, of course, we had the big trade right here. Chicago got a multitude of first-round picks from Miami so they can get up and get Brock Bowers. It was kind of just more of a fun option than anything, a big change-up. I love the idea of, just adding more and more superpower weapons for Mike McDaniel to be able to use. Yes, there's some ideas about, Tua potentially not even being there. Like, this isn't really the class to upgrade from Tua, so I'm just going to stop y'all right there. But then, of course, we also had the Niners have a big move up. Surprisingly, after this, there were very, very few trades. But early on, I just had this dream of the monster trades for these drafts. So day 2 is going to look a little bit different on this show than most other ones. But the Niners moved up for their star right tackle, Talise Fuaga, with the Minnesota Vikings. Continuing to scroll down, we will be continuing to re-reference this as the draft goes on. The Bears traded back up with Cincinnati to draft Dallas Turner. And then, of course, the result of that would be Byron Murphy there to the Bengals. We had a trade. Actually, we didn't have any more trades. Forgot about that. So, yeah, that was essentially the big moves of the draft. Again, we will be continuing to re-reference all of this as time goes on. But for now, let's get right into this. Pick number 33 for the Carolina Panthers. It just feels like wide receiver one's the position they'll go. The position I've continued to go. The position I will continue to go. So Troy Franklin's here. I mean, we could actually look, since Brian Burns most likely will be gone, could go Chris Braswell here. Could even sneak in a sneaky Xavier Thomas pick in there, who is a top 32 player on my board and confirmed he was reevaluated, and I still love him to death. But Troy Franklin is going to be the choice here. You just have to get these wide receivers early and often. It's just going to be very difficult to pass on someone who will be almost an every down starter for you at a position of need. At pick number 34 for the New England Patriots, they drafted Drake Maye in round number 1. I always go Devontae Walker for this team. I'm going to pass on it for the time being. Now, looking at the options available, we have some really good tackles that slipped out of the first round. I've been trying my best not to be myself and draft a billion tackles. So I'm going to draft one here for the Patriots. That's Kingsley Suamate, a swing tackle out of BYU. He started at both left and right tackle, so you can find the right role for him. At pick number 35 for the Arizona Cardinals. Yes, again, a team that I got absolutely reamed for passing on Marvin Harrison Jr. and getting an extra selection, but, you make mistakes. You make them once. Regardless, we have already drafted some really great players in Chop Robinson, as well as Olu Fashanu, actually both from Penn State. Didn't even think about that one. But defensive interior is the way I want to rock with this team. I still have my number 32 player in the class on the board, and that is Chris Jenkins. I think this class has a lot of really good players, but Chris Jenkins is the best run defender of them all. Need to get some help on the defensive interior. That is a great way to go. Now you got some lightning and thunder there with Chop Robinson and Chris Jenkins. At pick 36 for the Washington Commanders, they are pretty damn blessed at the moment to be able to draft Tyler Guyton, star right tackle out of Oklahoma. They need tackle help desperately to pair up with Jayden Daniels, and they are pretty damn lucky because there is one on the board. Pick number 37 for the Arizona Cardinals, again, via the LA Chargers trade. We've already drafted defensive interior, edge rusher, as well as tackle. Now, I mean, I could even go Troy Fautanu and just kick him into guard. I mean, that would be a really intriguing way to focus heavily on offense. A wide receiver, there's still some really good ones in here, and I do think that, maybe I know I should have went Marvin Harrison Jr. I always go Marvin Harrison Jr. for y'all. Wanted to change things up a little bit, but we're going to go corner here. I think the value is ripe for corner. You got Quinyon Mitchell, who is a pass defense freak. You got Kamari Lassiter, who's an athletic freak. You got Ennis Rakestraw, who's been accelerating up the draft boards like it's no other. You even have Kalen King here, who can play almost any position in the secondary. TJ Tampa as well. I'm going to go with the high-end corner and Kamari. That's what I normally rock, and that's what I'm going to roll with here. At pick 38 for the Tennessee Titans. A defensive back is a smart move to go. Went Joe Alton round 1. Is pretty much going to be wide receiver, or else it's going to be defensive back. However, I do see Troy Fautanu on the board, and that gets me very excited. Actually, I am debating making a move up with the Washington Commanders because I think the New York Giants would be lurking and blessed to get a player like Troy Fautanu to play on the interior of their offensive line. Too many teams that are out of range. I could see Jacksonville getting excited, but there's some other good offensive linemen available. So for the Washington Commanders, I am actually going to make this small move up. They don't have a ton of draft capital, but this is an extremely short-range trade. I doubt that I'd have to take anything more than pick 100, so I'm going to actually send pick 102. It still is projected as a higher, an extremely, tumultuous trade in terms of trade value, but we're going to accept it. I think it's totally worth sending that through to get Troy Fautanu. He could potentially play that left tackle spot for you, but worst case scenario, he kicks into guard, and he's going to be an elite offensive guard for you. You're just going to be getting an impact player nonetheless. Washington, I mean, I know edge rusher is a big issue, but I'd address edge rusher in the draft or in free agency and then allow tackle to be addressed here or potentially guard. Pick number 39, New York, did get just fleeced on Troy Fautanu, but there's a lot of really good options here, including Graham Barton. I want Troy Fautanu for Washington because of the fact that he could play left tackle, but Graham Barton's here, and I never get to have him on the board here. So we are going to be taking them early and often. So all the tackles that I was saying I'm trying to push down the board are all gone. Graham is not going to be playing tackle. He will be playing interior offensive line, but this team needs the help, so I am very happy to give it. At pick number 40, we're back with Tennessee, though. I think that corner or wide receiver is the right route to go. Tez Walker would be cool to keep him there in the South. A.D. Mitchell, love him. Jalen Polk, Jermaine Burton. You can't go wrong here. Tez has the just more consistent build because he's a little bit more compact at 6'2", 200 than a 6'4", sub 200 player like A.D. Mitchell. But I love A.D. Mitchell, and I really think he'd be a good weapon there in Tennessee. I think he could almost play a Nico Collins role if they end up getting Bobby Slowick. Pick number 41 for the Packers, we went after Nate Wiggins in round 1, which frees us up to go after a star safety like Cam Kinchins here in round 2. There's not much for Green Bay to upgrade. Simply put, there's not. There's really not. Some people say you need to get some extra edge rusher help in there because of, the age and the injury history, but, that's a big ask this early in the draft to get, probably a 4th or a 5th guy in rotation. Pick number 42 for the Vikings. We ended up trading back, and we actually got the 49ers pick as part of a trade back to get Michael Penix. So with Michael Penix on the team, you could easily go Chris Braswell here. I think that's a smart thing to do. There's just not really a more likely option if he is on the board. It's a guy that you're going to take. I have Xavier Thomas above Chris Braswell, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to take Chris Braswell if he's here. This team is losing both Davenport and Daniil Hunter, so you do need to go after an edge rusher, and Chris Braswell is going to most likely be a rush to the podium selection there at 42. Pick 43 for the Bears. So traded back, got an extra second round pick, and then we also have a future 1 and I believe 3, but I think we traded that 3 to move up. So we got an extra first round pick to move back essentially 9 spots with Miami. And this is part of a Justin Fields trade. The more that I'm hearing about Bill, the more he feels like I think it's going to be Kirk Cousins. So this might actually end up in future mocks being sent to the Raiders. We'll see what that what's up with that. But Bears have gotten Dallas Turner as well as Caleb Williams. That's a pretty damn solid start. Wide receiver wise, I still think you could end up drafting a wide receiver. You could get Tez Walker here. You could get Jalen Polk. I think Jalen Polk would be more of a favorite from my end, but let's get some offensive interior in here. Let's continue the offensive lineman game picked off the board. And Jackson Powers Johnson's an incredible selection. Win through the trenches. Jackson Powers Johnson, going to be that type of dude. He's crazy athletic as well, so he's going to certainly be one of these guys who will probably be selected well before 43. But, with 1 year of legit center production, it could lead teams to want to push him a little bit into day 2. Pick 44 for the Vegas Raiders. So I got JJ McCarthy here. Might pull the trigger. Round 1, we went Jerzon Newton. This is the prime opportunity for us to actually sit and develop JJ. He needs more time. He needs at least 1 year. And I do know that if Antonio Pierce gets brought back, he has experience with quarterbacks who have mobility as a primary asset. So I know that he'll be able to make JJ McCarthy at least as good of a version of himself as possible. At pick 45 for the Saints, we drafted J.C. Latham in round number 1 to be the eventual left tackle of the team. Left tackle of the team. So I did see in a very recent mock that they went quarterback. I don't know if the Saints, given the fact that the coaching staff has an affinity for Derek Carr, is going to have the balls to do what's necessary. So with that being said, I do think defensive interior is a position they will go after. And I love Leonard Taylor. I think he could complement what you have there in Brian Breezy very, very well. You need that interior defensive lineman number 2, and I just don't think you have it. At the same time, I think I'm actually going to end up going Rook Ororo here, who I have higher. Rook is my number 34 player in the class. He's very versatile, can play edge rusher as well at 290 pounds. And he's just a phenomenal player. Has instant chemistry there with Brian Breezy. So I think that chemistry is a bit underrated. Great player, great athlete, great addition. Pick 46 for the Indianapolis Colts. Dude, the amount of people get absolutely heated when I go defensive interior when y'all could use a defensive interior does get me a little bit concerned about y'all. Just checking in. Are you okay? Because you need some defensive interior help after next year. But looking at the other options, you got some corners here that are phenomenal. Kalen King, TJ Tampa, Quinyon Mitchell, not to mention Dwight McLaughlin, who's one of my loves of the draft, but again, not going to be taken this early. I'm looking at Kalen King. I love the versatility he brings. It depends if you bring back Kenny, and I think you will. So given that you might bring back Kenny, TJ Tampa is very similar, in my opinion, in terms of the overall essence of the prospect to what you brought in last year with Juju Brents. So I think he complements what you guys have, and he's going to be a very good addition nonetheless. Very smart player, very consistent, just worth bringing in and having in the building. Pick number 47 for the Giants. Would have loved J.J. McCarthy potentially at this spot. We've gotten Malik Neighbors and as well as Graham Barton. For those of y'all who randomly get butthurt that I don't draft a tackle in the first round, which blows my mind, but I love y'all. You irritate me sometimes, but I do love you. There's a couple other positions I want to go for. I think an edge 2 is certainly on the table. Adisa Isaac as well as, where's he at? Xavier Thomas. Those dudes I do think should be accelerated up the board a little bit more than they are, but you can wait till round 3. You can. Javon Solomon, dark horse, dude. I like it. I like the tape I've seen on him. But you already have your wide receiver. I do think Kalen King as a versatile DB could be brought into the system. You don't have Wink Martindale anymore. I always appreciate y'all for letting me know about that because, muscle memory, I want to just talk about Wink all the time. That doesn't sound right. But we're actually going to go Kalen King. Super versatile, great asset in the run game. Can play safety, can play slot. I just think he fits any role that you're looking for and is just the best player available. At pick 48, the Jaguars are on the board. They drafted a star corner in Kool-Aid McKinstry in round 1, which, yes, I will be changing that up a little bit more because I love y'all. With this selection, it's going to be Christian Haynes. It's a bulky, high athletic interior offensive lineman who is also a top 15 player on my board. He is literally sitting there at 12. Love him to death. Great athlete, great player, and it just fits. Connecticut offensive linemen don't go high very often. He's somebody who I think I'd be fine with in the first. Pick 49 for the Bengals. We moved back and got Byron Murphy the second. I love that pick. He is my interior defensive lineman 1, as well as several others. This is just going to be Jatavian Sanders. You need defensive interior. You need tight end. There's not really much else in terms of the tackle department that would start right away. Now you got Javon Foster, Blake Fisher, Pat Paul, as well as Karan Ahmad-Jadjeh. Those dudes I do love, but none of them are going to start right away the way that you kind of need them to start right away. So at pick 50 for the Philadelphia Eagles, Eagles went after Cooper DeJean, super versatile defensive back, and anybody who pushes back against a Cooper DeJean pick for this team, pipe down. I know a lot of my Eagles fans love it, so I'm not calling out very many of you. Y'all do support the selection, and it wisely so. I do think this is a spot where you could potentially look at that wide receiver 3, is that you went after, a star defender, how he usually likes to yo-yo back and forth. With Jalen Polk here, he has the athleticism, and he's a little bit more of a route runner than, just a straight-up speed guy. We could try to wait till, pick 97 for somebody, but it's tough. Could go Led McConkey, could go Xavier Worthy, could go Jermaine Burton. That would be the reason why I don't select one at this pick, but at the same time, I need to go after a linebacker too. And I think this is where we will end up going after one. Depending on the DC that you get, I do think they will value the one linebacker who is a Mike build, and that's Junior Colson. He's 6'3", 250. You don't have a Mike linebacker on the team. Zach Cunningham cannot be someone who you continue bringing back on one-year contracts to be your savior. Junior Colson's going to be the guy. I'm going to take him before anybody else can. So the Rams, another team that I honestly would really love Junior Colson going to, are on the board. And in the first round, they went Braylon Trice. Ennis Rakestraw is here. Quinyon Mitchell is here. Karan Ahmad-Jadjeh is here as well. And I think I might actually roll the dice on the cornerback train over a super high upside left tackle. I'm a big fan of Karan Ahmad-Jadjeh. This team needs a left tackle of the future. He's super athletic as well. This is a guy who's a building block of a franchise. So I think that the Rams go back-to-back second rounds in back-to-back years going offensive line. Pick number 52 for the Steelers. The Steelers went after Terrion Arnold in round number 1. And in round number 2, would have been very nice to get Karan Ahmad-Jadjeh. Not going to be drafting any tackles. Javon Foster would be the next guy who I'd really be passionate about. We do need defensive back help. We need linebacker help. I'm actually going to go after the ball hawk here in Quinyon Mitchell. He's used to the cold weather. Toledo. Toledo. If you can survive Toledo, you have my respect. And, 20 pass breakups in 2022. I think he had like 12 or 13 this year. Like, this dude knows and has a nose for the ball. And, that's going to be a very valuable asset there with Pat Pete being there one more year. Pick 53, Dolphins are back. I think this is a great spot to trade out because they lost a ton of draft capital in that trade up for Brock Bowers. Actually, I could go Javon Foster here. Looking at the teams that need left tackles, though, I don't see too many. This is a great spot to trade out. This is. I don't know why we can't move up there. There we go. So I want Jalen Polk to come off the board. He's the final really talented wide receiver at 6'2", 204. Like, at that frame, you have him and Tez Walker, but Jalen Polk, he's a special dude. He's a special talent, especially after the catch. Looking at the teams that did not draft a wide receiver, the Bills they don't have the organization that wants to move up for a wide receiver like that. Other teams that could be like really aggressive already drafted a wide receiver there for the Panthers. Yikes. I could see the Patriots getting aggressive, but they would be getting aggressive for Devontae Walker. Not looking too great in terms of a trade back for that reason. I'm trying to at least acquire some future draft capital because we really did siphon the hell out of the draft capital for this team. It might not be there's not a team that probably wants to move up here. Doesn't look like it. So, RIP to that idea. I do think that we could end up just going after Javon Foster. That was my goal for moving back. I think that I want to start showing a little bit more love to Javon. He's a great tackle with high upside. He needs to learn from Terran Armstead. You're going to have crazy athleticism there with Brock Bowers and Javon Foster. This team needed a tight end. They need a left tackle for the future. We're going Javon. So Javon Foster is the choice. Pick 54 for the Philadelphia Eagles have gone linebacker as well as defensive back. They're going to go after a wide receiver here. It's Ladd McConkey, it's Xavier Worthy, or Jermaine Burton. I think Ladd McConkey might get a little bit more love than expected, so we're going to select Ladd McConkey here. At pick 55 for the Cleveland Browns, another team that could really use a wide receiver, Devontae Walker and Jalen Polk are perfect for this. They traded away Donovan Peoples-Jones. They have their much better version in Jalen Polk to come to the rescue. At pick 56 for the Dallas Cowboys, we went after a left tackle, Jordan Morgan, in round number 1. In round number 2, could go some defensive interior help, but, it's not a great selection of guys that I think could complement what they have right now very well. I do think that center is the best move you can make. Therefore, hate to be boring, but Cedric Van Pran. There you go. I just love drafting offensive line for this team. They need help. We're going to give it. Pick number 57. So Green Bay's gotten their safety. They've gotten their corner. I might even go defensive interior here. I mean, I know that you don't need it by any stretch because I love Carl Brooks in there, right? But Leonard Taylor might be just best player available. I have just continued to go linebacker for y'all as well, and I can just do that with our next picks. I just think the value is perfect. It really is. There's not many other positions that are worth it at this point. Like running back wise, I do like, Trey Benson in there as well as Marshawn Lloyd and, Bucky Irving. I'm not there yet by taking them for this team. I'm going to go Leonard Taylor. It's going to irritate some people, and I don't think it's a huge need, but it's just such good value for a player who should be a top 10 pick. Pick 58 for Tampa Bay. Might go Ennis Rakestraw here. In the first round, we ended up targeting Keon Coleman. So we got a receiving weapon. Let's get a defensive weapon here. You got Ennis Rakestraw, who is getting a ton of love right now. I think it's right for us to show him a little bit here. Pick 59 for the Houston Texans. Went after Tavondre Sweat in round number 1. I already know this is going to irritate people if I end up going after my boy Johnny Wilson here, but it's a top 20 target. This is exactly what I think y'all need. I think he's going to be a great wide receiver 1 for you, and if you need him to play linebacker or tight end, he can play tight end. So we go Johnny Wilson there. Pick number 60 for the Kansas City Chiefs went Brian Thomas, round 1. For this selection, I'm looking at not that position. Tackles could get, Patrick Paul in there for some competition. It's a little bit, even though PFF doesn't think it's early, I think it's a little early. So I am going to go back to that defensive interior. I think Mekhi Wingo versatility just makes a ton of sense. Mason Smith as well makes a ton of sense for this team. Don't know why Dwayne Carter's even mentioned in the top 100. He is pretty much ineffective. Pick 61. This is going to be Devontae Walker for Buffalo. They've got Tyler Nubin in round 1. They need a wide receiver 2. Devontae Walker's a great selection and a nice middle finger there to the Patriots. I haven't had too many trades here in round 2, but that's because the value is right. Pick 62 for the Detroit Lions. We went after, what do we do in round number 1 for you? We went Jonah Ellis. Father Luther Ellis played for the Lions. With this selection, we are actually going to go, do they finally add him in here? You got to be kidding me. So we're going to be using Shaw Smith-Wade as a placeholder for my number 24 player, Dwight McGlothern, out of Arkansas. Big fan of that. Pick 63 for the Minnesota Vikings via that San Francisco trade. Still trying to trade back here. We have already drafted an edge rusher as well as our quarterback of the future. I just kind of want to get out of this spot. Looking at the wide receivers available, there is just a very limited amount that is available. You got Jermaine Burton, you got Xavier Worthy, you got Brandon Rice that you could throw in there, and then you got Jacob Cowie and Malachi Corley. So 5 receivers for teams that are probably looking for it down the line. I do think Xavier Worthy and Jermaine Burton deserve that type of respect to be in the second round. And there is a team right here in the Patriots that could be in the mood for one. The Jets certainly could be in the mood for one. Like, they already got their tackle. They don't really need much else. And so I'm not going to play any games. We're going to be moving up with the New York Jets. They've been pretty damn prosperous. For a 10-spot move up, it might actually cost pick 111 as well, but this Jets team only really needs offensive tackle and wide receiver to be successful. So they're going to sacrifice in order to take a huge W here by getting Jermaine Burton, who has always been a top 32 player on my board. Pick 64, the Ravens started off the first round by going after Xavier Legette. At pick 64, hard to go against a star like Patrick Paul, who's been super consistent, but I do know the interior of the offensive line also needs some help. I might actually just go and get some Cooper Beebe love here and just get a kind of best player available. So that is where we are going to go. Pick 65 for Carolina. I do think you could try to get Patrick Paul, who's been far more consistent than Ike Ekwonu, and then you could end up just, kicking Braden Christensen to the curb, etc. I think that's a smart move for the franchise, and at least you get to bring in some competition. I have an eyelash in my eye. This is wonderful. Yeah, I swear. Something always has to try to derail this beautiful mock draft. At pick 66 for the Arizona Cardinals, though, we could actually go after Brendan Rice here, Malachi Corley. I think those guys are good depth pieces down the line, but looking at the options, we went defensive interior. We've gone after edge rusher. We've gone after a left tackle and a cornerback. Now, I do think a second cornerback is technically still available, but not a huge need for that. Other positions of note, I do think defensive interior is a good position to go. You got McKinley Jackson now, who's fitting into the proper value. Same thing with Brandon Dorless. Same thing with Mason Smith. So it really is kind of up to you in terms of that front. I want to do a quick shout out to Jordan Jefferson. I'm going to go best player available. I love that versatility of Brandon Dorless. We're just going to get a ton of pass rushing from the inside. Pick 67 for the Washington Commanders. This is going to be Xavier Thomas. Adisa Isaac's a great choice. Don't get me wrong. But I'm going to show some love to my own board and go after my 26th player in the draft. He's not even listed here, and teams just, I don't think, are as high on him remotely as I am, but incredible player, and this team desperately needs it. So the Commanders have gone after multiple tackles as well as a quarterback and now an edge rusher in Xavier Thomas. Pick 68 for the New England Patriots. They need to get some wide receiver help. They've gone after tackle as well as quarterback, and Xavier Worthy is here. Just go BPA. Just go BPA. Don't overthink it. Xavier Worthy goes to the Patriots. At pick number 69 for the Los Angeles Chargers. We've, made a quick little trade up before to get Marvin Harrison Jr. With this selection, it's going to be corner or it's a defensive interior. There's some good players that are still available. I think the best one actually is probably going to be Josh Newton. So we're going to go after a nice corner 2, a good vet. I'm glad that everything kind of leveled out for Josh. He's a fringe 2 to 3 type of guy, and this is a perfect range for him. Pick number 70 for the New York Giants. Looking at Adisa Isaac here, getting very excited. Checking what we did with our previous selections, we have Kalen King, so we could pair him up from Penn State just for the versatility that you can have in that secondary. And then you also ended up drafting Graham Barton and Malik Neighbors. So Adisa Isaac's going to be the choice. You've been looking for an edge too. People are even talking about Brian Burns potentially going there. So Adisa Isaac, super duper smart, great player. Pick number 71 for the Arizona Cardinals again. Brandon Rice makes a lot of sense here. You got freaking toasted by his pops for a very long time. We're going to have Brandon Rice be the dude who comes in and helps out. 6'3", 210. Good weapon. Very good weapon. Pick number 72 for the Minnesota Vikings. Part of that trade back. Got some extra good draft capital. It's very good for the team. We could look at some linebackers for the future, but I love the way that y'all draft linebackers down the board. It's always the linebackers that I love. So shout out to you for that. Knowing y'all, I'm probably going to end up drafting Junior Colson this year just because of the fact that you draft the linebackers that I love. But could look at running back here. Could get the best running back in Trey Benson, and I think that would be a very, very smart move. Or you can go after Javon Solomon, another edge rusher, but we're going to go after Trey Benson, the best running back in the class. Big fan of him. He's been extremely consistent, just had a slow start to the year. Pick number 73 for the Detroit Lions. We've gone after corner. We've gone after edge rusher as well. Could go after a DB here, and Kalen Bullock could have a team trade up for Kalen Bullock too. But regardless, could even go a linebacker. I think that's a dark horse position to target. I think interior offensive line is a great position to go. Trevor Keegan's a good player. Glad to see him finally listed in the PFF database. But that actually might be the position I want to go for this team. Other positions of note, we could go defensive interior and get Mason Smith to be that gap penetrator. I love Michael Hall, honestly, at pick 93 a little bit more, though. So we're going to go interior offensive line, and we're actually going to go Drake Nugent out of Michigan. Technically, Zach Frazier should be, Zach Frazier should be going above. I love him as a center. That's why I don't really like doing this, but we're going to kick him to right guard and he can fill in at center. You're kind of flipping off the rest of the league by doing that, but, we're not here to make people happy, especially for the Lions. Pick number 74 for the Falcons. Got Justin Fields. Again, probably going to be improbable if you get Bill Belichick, but you got Justin Fields. You got Rome Odunze. Let's get yourself a good edge rusher here. God, I love Javon Solomon. I mean, this dude's an absolute freak show. Again, rare to find guys from Troy who can play that well, but he can. Pick number 75 for the Bears. We've addressed a good amount of positions for him. Obviously got quarterback, got center in there, and edge rusher. With this selection, I actually really like Malachi Corley. He's used to playing in some pretty tough environments. He's really fast as well. He kind of lost a little bit of the sparkle, but even for me, a guy who's not a huge guy for Malachi Corley, I still think he's a great player. So I think he'd be a good addition, a good compliment there to DJ Moore. At pick 76, we got Kalen Bullock still on the board, which breaks my heart, but it's okay. We have the Broncos, and this is where I'm going to take a quarterback for the Broncos. We took an edge rusher in the first round. This is going to be Joe Milton III, superstar with a super cannon. The dude just balls out. He is still, he's my number 42 player in the class. I have full faith in him, but this guy could just totally air it out. It's a future option for the team, and I just love to see what happens when you could throw over 100 yards in that thin air. Pick number 77 for the Vegas Raiders. They got J.J. McCarthy. They have Jerzon Newton. Might go Kalen Bullock here, but I think a linebacker is equally as important to target, and there's some great ones on the board. I'm going to go Edgerrin Cooper at 230 pounds, 6'3", lightning fast. I think he's super versatile, well worth the selection. Pick 78 for the Seattle Seahawks. I'm really trying to get Kalen Bullock off the board, but the Seahawks have already targeted a quarterback in Bo Nix. Already heard enough feedback on that one, so I know how y'all feel about that. We're going to go linebacker here, though. I think this is a proper time to go after one of my favorite linebackers, Adefwon Olufosho. He's been getting absolutely no love, but I kind of kept him on the DL. He was sitting there at 68 on my board for a very long time. So glad to give him the love and respect he gets. He stays there in Washington. Pick number 79 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. We've gone interior offensive line as well as corner. Could go after Kalen Bullock here because I don't think that's out of the realm at all. And honestly, let's do it. Kalen Bullock, it's just proper value for, just going BPA, get some extra pieces in the secondary. Pick 80 for the Cincinnati Bengals, defensive interior, tight end, already drafted. This is where I think Blake Fisher can be brought in. It's digestible to go after a right tackle to develop here in the third round versus in the second. Pick number 81, back with the Seahawks. Interior offensive line, kind of a big thing for them to target. I'm looking at some really good players here. I love Drake Nugent. Came in to replace Olu Oluwatimi's role, who is on your team right now. So you already know you think of that role very well. And Drake Nugent's a great player. He's going to be kicking over to that left guard spot. Pick number 82 for the Indianapolis Colts. We've already gone after edge rusher. And then we also ended up targeting a star corner for you in TJ Tampa. Need some receiver help in here. Looking at the options available, it's okay to not go after a receiver every single draft. So let's try to figure out what else is available. Now, Mike Sainristil is fun. I don't really think that he's going to be a guy. You could use him as a safety, to be fair. I honestly might just go BPA with Sainristil because he is an absolute beast on the field, and then just say, we'll figure it out. I'm kind of tempted to do that. I do know a future nose tackle also is in the works, but let's change it up a little bit. Let's have fun. Mike Sainristil is going to be a safety project there for y'all, but man, just fill up that DB room with different styles of guys. He's going to be a really good player. At pick 83 for the LA Rams, I love Peyton Wilson to this team. We've already gone Karan Ahmedjadjeh as well as Braylon Trice. There's just dudes everywhere. To be fair, I think I kind of want to continue the defensive route and actually go, rather than after Peyton Wilson, Mason Smith out of LSU officially declared, which is wild to me. But 310 should be 300, and he's just super toolsy, but you just need someone to mentor him, and I think Aaron Donald would be great for that. Pick number 84 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We've gone after corner with Quinyon Mitchell, as well as, do we go back-to-back corners? I'm so stupid. Honestly, we kind of need it low-key. But we're going to go linebacker with this one or a center. Looking at the centers that are available, man, now I feel like an idiot. RIP to that, so apologies about that, y'all. Actually, we're going to go center here. To be fair, he is graded higher than the other center that just went above him, but Bo Limmer, true right guard, but we're going to use him as a center. Apologies about that. Anyways, we could actually use multiple defensive backs, so that's okay. Pick number 85, though, with the Houston Texans. I think that linebacker is a good position to go for this team. I'm going to deal with the injuries, and I'm going to go Peyton Wilson, who's the best quality linebacker in the class. Pick 86 for the Cleveland Browns. They went after Devontae Walker in round number 2, with their first pick. With the second pick, I'm going after the high upside of McKinley Jackson at 325 pounds with great movement skills. Pick 87 for the Dallas Cowboys. I think they go after a running back. I do like Jonathan Brooks. ACL tear scares me a little bit for him. I would be down to Marshawn Lloyd and Bucky Irving, and I think Bucky is just impossible to bring down, so I'm going to give him there to Dallas. Pick number 88 for the Green Bay Packers. This is a running back selection. Could go Jonathan Brooks here. I think Blake Corum's actually a pretty solid option, but I think Audric Estime is the best option. He has all the run and gun that you'll ever ask for. He's super well balanced. I think he had like a 94 grade too. Yeah, I did. So overall, just a very talented player. Pick 89 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We've already gone after wide receiver and Keon Coleman. And then we also went defensive back with Ennis Rakestraw Jr. Looking at the linebackers, I think Jeremiah Trotter would be the best choice available. Although I do think that Tommy Eichenberg, Michael Barrett, like you have a lot of really good dudes here. I just know Jeremiah Trotter is super young and developmental. And when I have veterans on my team, that's the way I go. Interior offensive line's looking a little bit weaker at the moment, hence why I'm kind of inching a little bit away from that. Pick number 90 for the Arizona Cardinals. Looking at other options that are available, I do think a linebacker could be pretty damn solid here. You need some help. And Tommy Eichenberg and Michael Barrett are available. So I'm going to go with Tommy Eichenberg, who is close to that Mike build at right around 240 pounds. Pick 91 for the KC Chiefs. Looking at the tackles that are still available, just not a big fan of them. Just personally not a big fan. I could go after another wide receiver here in Jacob Cowing, who's going to be a little bit different, but you're competing with Sky Moore at that point. Not a big fan of that. You could look actually at a future in the linebacking core, just some extra depth there. Love Curtis Jacobs. I think he could be a superstar, but I'm actually going to get a day one impact, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about this, about Michael Barrett. Pick 92 for the Green Bay Packers. We just went running back. I do think you could pick up a tackle project if there was somebody who's properly valued that's available. I don't think that's the case. You could look to get a future center in the room, but again, you're really starting to grasp at straws at this point for good value on the offensive line. I might actually end up going back for Javon Bullard in the secondary, another safety to add to our absolute dynamic safety core. Just go BPA. Just don't overthink it. Pick number 93 for the Detroit Lions. We actually went after Zach Frazier with our last selection. So we've gotten edge, center, as well as corner. Defense interior is left. I talked about Michael Hall earlier, and I think it's a great choice. He's kind of going to be your value version of what you could have gotten with Kalijah Cansey last year. Pick 94 for the Niners. I love Kalen Carson to this team, and I'm going to continue sending him to there to the day I die. Massive move up, got Talise Fuaga in the first round. Pick number 95 for the Baltimore Ravens. We've already gone after wide receiver as well as, I believe, offensive line. Yes, with Cooper Beebe. Now, I don't think this team's desperate for a defensive back. Jabbar Muhammad, if I'm not mistaken, is in the transfer portal as well. So RIP to that. I love Daquan Hardy. It's a very sneaky option for this team. But other positions of note, like I don't think the tackles are good enough. Let's look at defensive interior again. I really like Jordan Jefferson. I think he's very underrated and could be one of those sneaky end of the day 2 picks. Pick number 96 for Jacksonville. Now we're getting the compensatories. We went after guard. We went after DB twice with one corner and one at safety. Let's look at the edge rushers that are available. This is a good spot for some of these guys. I mean, I think Cedric Johnson's a bit underrated. I really like Steve Linton, but he's going back to school. I'm actually looking at Gabriel Murphy here, and he actually graded very similarly initially to Latu. He's a good player, just a solid guy with a great motor. That's a guy worth spending a 96 overall pick on. Pick 97 for the Eagles. We've gone after a wide receiver, a linebacker, as well as defensive back. So kind of got the holy trinity right there. With this selection, I do think running back should be on their board, and Marshawn Lloyd fixes exactly what they're missing with losing out on DeAndre Swift. Pick 98 back with the Niners again, and I think interior offensive line, this is where I trust potentially bringing on some good depth like Christian Mahogany, who just isn't overwhelmingly exciting, but still a great player. Pick 99 for the Buffalo Bills. We went after defensive back and wide receiver. This team could actually use some extra edge rushing help. Like Darius Robinson is a dude who I could consider bringing on, but linebacker with all the injuries they've had, I really want to continue bringing a little bit more love for him. And honestly, I can get kind of both the pass rusher as well as a linebacker here with Tyron Hopper. A little bit of a lighter linebacking core, but I love Tyron Hopper as an edge rusher, so I'd be very excited to see what he can do there in Buffalo. And ending off the draft at pick 100, we have the Washington Commanders, who drafted both tackles, edge rusher, and a quarterback. This is a team where I can see them going after a tight end to end off day number 2, but there's a lot of really good options there on day 3. I do think a linebacker should be in their short list of items to target. And in that short list is going to be a 6'1", 240-pound player in Curtis Jacobs. I'm a big fan of him. I thought he was very underrated, and he's the name that you guys need to have on your list. So that's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching, showing the support that you always do. See you on the far side.